Give me one reason to stay here, then I'll turn right back around. Give me one reason to stay here, then I'll turn right back around. Said I don't wanna leave you lonely. You gotta make me change my mind. Baby, I've got your number, and I know that you got mine. You know that I called you, I called too many times. You got to call me, baby. You can call me anytime. You got to call me. Give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around. Give me one reason to stay here. Oh, I'll turn right back around. Said I don't want to leave you lonely. You better make me change my mind.
Warning. This podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. We could be. We might be. Perhaps. I think it looks like we are live, ladies and gentlemen, here on the I'm No Joe YouTube channel for our second edition of the Joe Liminaries, the new home on the I'm No Joe channel for all things punchy, kicking news and recent event announcements. So, without further ado, we are going to dive right into it here. I would like to take just a moment before we do, though, to thank the freshest guest a man could ask for coming along and joining in the shit-talking shenaniganry with me. How you doing this afternoon, sir?
Not bad, not bad. Got a few good fights possibly coming up.
Yeah, we got some interesting things to talk about here for sure. So, jumping right in, right off the top, did not realize until after we had finished it out that we actually didn't even get a chance on Sunday for the What Did I Say show when I broke down the full Abu Dhabi recap. I completely neglected to go over some of my other fights that we had talked about during that course of time, and I literally just went over the full UFC Abu Dhabi breakdown, and there were a couple of other cards, including one last Friday night for Bellator that I completely forgot to go over. So I'm just going to take just a quick second real quick here. There we go. Before we get into all of the announcements and whatnots, to go over just a couple things real quick here, because I, for one, was completely fucking surprised. Not only that it ended the way it did, but how he ended it Friday night. Aaron Pico has been in one hell of a slump. The kid has got fucking vast amounts of potential. You can watch his highlights, you can watch his social media. The kid has got the potential, but for whatever fucking reason, every time he has stepped in the octagon for Bellator, it's like when he walks in the cage, his brain just shuts off for a second, or at least goes to a very hard delay, and he can't think in the moment, and it's cost him every fucking time. And Aaron Pico is a great striker. I believe he was Golden Gloves at one point in his career on the uptake. So the kid's got fucking hands, but he just couldn't, for whatever reason, put it all together. And we've been waiting to see him just finally, like, get it all to click and fall into place and see him become the martial artist that you can tell that he's got the potential to be. And then we see him come out Friday night, and he wins by fucking submission. A beautiful, beautiful submission as well. So now you have to wonder, is this kid, now that he's working with Mike Winklejohn, he moved out to Albuquerque, he is now a full Winklejohn fledgling, and the proof is in the pudding, and we have seen several other guys lately who just couldn't get it together for whatever reason, find that coach that they have been waiting for, and all of a sudden, it's like all the Jenga blocks just lay one after another the way that they were supposed to, and things start to make sense. Is Winklejohn what Aaron Pico needed? Because now not only was he good in his striking, because he did look much better in his striking, but the way that he was able to, in the moment, so fluidly transition to the submission, as opposed to going for the ground and pound, which is more of his area of expertise. I mean, you gotta kind of wonder, is Aaron Pico finally getting it on track? Because if he is, Bellator better watch the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's all you need is the change of scenery and better voice in your ear that's gonna get you going. So good luck.
Yeah, it looks like Pico might have found the perfect change of fucking scenery and that right Jiminy Cricket to get him in the right place. And damn, if he didn't get out there fucking round one, when you would expect Pico to come out swinging and go for the knockout by a fucking smooth round one submission. We're watching, sir. We're watching.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good MMA coming out of Albuquerque.
Fuck, yes, there is. Winklejohn, for whatever, and I will say this, because Cowboy was far from the first person to say that there are a lot of issues in the Winklejohn house. Rashad Evans, Tim Kennedy, like John Jones himself, several big names, reputable, honest, like, good for their word fighters have come out several different times now and said, there's a lot of issues in the house that Winklejohn built. It's great for what it is, but there's a lot of issues behind the scenes. And it's nice to see that even though they've had all this shit going on, that they have still got their ability to get a fighter where they need to be. Because Pico looked like he was about to go off the fucking rails and lose his chances. That ship has essentially turned itself 180 and is heading back to fucking shore now. It looks like that kid might have a good chance now. I'm excited to see what they can do. So, the other one from Friday night that we hyped up in the pre, and I forgot to fucking mention on the What Did I Say show. I've been saying this for a minute. Lots of folks are starting to agree. Sergio is the Pettis brother with all the talent. Showtime hit at that right moment with that right off the cage kick to get himself popular, but Sergio is where all the fucking talent in the Pettis family has secretly been squirreled away, and he came out Friday night looking like a fucking world breaker. And I know that Dana was grinding his fucking teeth regretting letting that motherfucker go, because he is quickly becoming a star over in Bellator, exactly like we said he was going to, because that kid has got the talent, he's got a good fucking head on his shoulders, and he's young enough he can do this for at least another decade and more if he wants to. And he's not hungry for the limelight, he's just hungry for competition. He's tearing through it now, man. Sergio is on a fucking roll. I'm fucking very happy to see that.
I wonder how many more fights he's got lined up under Bellator.
I think he said he signed a 6-fight contract initially. So
And that was his
third one.
fight
So
under Bellator?
that should leave him with 3 more on this contract. And you know
Three
Dana's
more,
got
and
his
then-
lawyers.
Yeah,
like,
so another year, and Dana might be
getting him back.
might be giving him a call. Yeah.
And which, to be fair, that's kind of exactly what we say all the time. Like, if the UFC, for whatever reason, decides that they don't want to renew your contract, don't cry and bitch. Find whoever's going to fucking pick you up next, go and start kicking ass and taking names. Because when you show what you knew all along that you were worth in a different organization, the UFC has to change their tune. And when they do, that comes with strings that you get to pull. Sergio is pulling some very nice strings. He put on, to be fair, Ricky Bandejas is no fucking easy fight for anybody, and he did not give Sergio an inch that he didn't take. But Sergio controlled that whole goddamn fight, start to finish, was cleaner with his striking, was better, and I think faster with his countering, which is what helped him a lot, like throw Bandejas' rhythm off. So, there is that. Now, with that being said, let's jump into some news that's a little more current, shall we say. The man has been known for the last 2 weeks at least as Khabib 2.0. To be fair, though, he deserves every bit of the respect to call that man by his name, Khamzat Chimaev. That young man showed up out of nowhere, took a short notice 185-pound fight on Fight Island 2. He's a 155-pound fighter. Took his short notice debut fight in the UFC at 185 pounds, I believe on 10 days notice. Came in, won that fight in 47 seconds, absorbing 0 strikes doing so. Turned around, got back to the hotel, found Dana and Mick Maynard having dinner and said, I want another fight. That's not my weight class. I'm not leaving Fight Island till you get me another fight. You know how much Dana loves that, so he did. He turned around and he got Chimaev another fight for the final UFC fight night in Abu Dhabi at 170 pounds. So he took a 170-pound fight on literally 7 days' notice from his first fight. Cut down, made weight, showed up at 170, won that fight in 49 seconds, absorbing 2 strikes in the process. He now is 2-0 in the UFC with a combined octagon time of less than 2 minutes, delivering 171 strikes, absorbing 2, with also, in doing so, setting the new UFC record for fastest turnaround time of 10 days. The previous record held at 13 days by one Cowboy Cerrone.
Mm-hmm.
So this young man steps in as a lightweight, takes a short notice 10-day fight at middleweight, takes another 10-day short notice fight immediately after that at welterweight, and now we have found out this afternoon through Dana White doing his interview with Brett Okamoto this afternoon, Khamzat Chimaev now has a match on the August 8th card. He told Dana he wants to turn around immediately, and Dana White said, and I quote, we're going to give him exactly what he wants.
Yep.
We will see Khamzat Chimaev in another 2 weeks. He's coming back. That will be 3 fights in 2 months. He is cementing himself as one of the hottest, most eyeball-grabbing prospects the UFC has seen in a long fucking time. And I, for one, am very excited to see where this train goes, because this isn't coming in off word-of-mouth hype. This kid's hype is absolutely 100% what we saw with our own 2 eyes. That's a little bit different than a lot of the guys that come in and get a lot of hype from the UFC. This motherfucker straight up earned it in front of us and didn't ask for anything but another chance to do it.
Yep. Yeah, this guy is something else. I remember all of us were sitting around watching his first fight, and we're like, what the hell?
Yep.
Where did this dude come from? Because it was one of the most dominating wins you've seen in quite some time. And his second match was, or his second fight was the exact same thing.
Yeah, equally as fucking impressive and equally as fast. The only difference really was that he absorbed 2 punches on the way down in the second fight where he didn't in the first fight. That's the only difference. And those took 2 extra seconds.
Yeah, and all this guy says is, I just want to smash people.
I just want to smash. I don't care, brother. Line them up. I just want to smash.
Yeah, I don't care who it is. I just want to fight people.
Yeah.
He said he was going to go home, see his mom, and then talk to his brothers, and then he'd be ready for another fight. Apparently he's gone home, talked to his mom, talked to his brothers, and now he's ready for another fight. So yeah, I saw this pop up earlier. I was like, dude's getting a fight in August. All right.
Well, and the other thing that
Do what you do, man.
the other thing I think is worth mentioning that a lot of folks might not know because I wasn't even aware of it and I was following it in the moment. On last Saturday, on the final UFC fight night, when we saw Chimaev go out, dominate, and fucking win his victory, when he left and did his post-fight Octagon interview and said that he doesn't care who it is, he just wants someone else to smash as soon as they can get him one, when he took that headset off and handed it to that UFC official, he turned around and went back into the locker room and went into Alexander Gustafsson's locker room and started helping him wrestling warm up.
Nice.
He left his own victory speech and went straight back to the locker room, and there's now footage of it that you can watch, and it's not half-assed. He went back there and was helping Gustafsson warm up immediately, like nothing happened. Like, that's the kind of fucking teammate that you want on your fucking side. That dude is not only going to fucking shoot for the top, but he's going to try and bring everyone that helps him right back up. And Gus, after getting tapped to Fabricio, could use a little fucking help because he's not in bad spirits, but to be fair, Gus should have been able to see himself getting led into that. It wasn't a last-minute grab. Fabricio fucking held on to him and worked his way to that submission.
Yes, he did.
And I think with a guy as hungry and as fucking eager to get back in there as Chimaev in your corner working with you like they clearly do one-on-one, that's going to help Gus stay sharp because at heavyweight, obviously, you can't fuck around.
No.
Fabricio's the least trouble they're going to throw at you at heavyweight if you're going to stay there.
Yeah.
So I think Chimaev is a great asset to the guys around him as well as the UFC. I think he's going to be really good for the sport as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems like got a pretty decent head on his shoulders too.
Fuck
so.
yes, he does. Nice and fucking humble and modest. Just wants an opportunity to show you what he can do.
Yep. I just want to smash.
Yeah, you can't ask for more than that, man. So, another thing, kind of tying back to last weekend, that it's starting to be a little more popular now. It kind of slid under the radar in the moment because there was a lot happening, but in the Jai Herbert versus Francisco Trinaldo fight, the final sequence of the fight, Francisco Trinaldo just absolutely fucking mollywopped Jai Herbert and sent him falling to the canvas semi-stiff with a 1,000-yard stare. In the moment, it kind of looked like he clipped him, but he was maybe trying to come out of it, but he still was definitely clipped. Trinaldo looked at Herb Dean, looked down at Jai Herbert, looked back at Herb Dean, and then, because Herb hadn't stopped it, came in and hit him, I think, 3 more times, looking at Herb Dean after every strike, waiting for him to stop the fight. When Herb finally did stop the fight, the first thing Francisco Trinaldo did was stand up and look right at fucking Herb Dean. He didn't say anything, but he gave him a fucking look, deservedly so. After the match was over, as everyone was leaving the octagon, Dan Hardy, who, with Paul Felder, had been yelling that the fight should have been stopped when Herbert couldn't tell where the fuck he was laying on his back, took it upon himself. Dan Hardy literally took his headset off, stood up, and yelled at Herb Dean as he walked past him that you need to be better in there, that there's no reason for that. Herb Dean said, do your job, I'll do my, or do you want to do my job? And Dan Hardy said, no, I want you to do your job so that I can do mine. Because Dan Hardy is still an active fighter and is talking right now and trying to get back into the ring. Herb Dean being one of the most prominent UFC officiates, this was a bad fucking call. And then in seeing the hype around this build up, I both went back and watched the end of the fight, watched Herb Dean's response to the situation, and then watched Dan Hardy come out and make a longer statement explaining more of his point to it. That fight there should have been no strikes from Trinaldo once Herbert hit the ground. He hit the ground, and watching this again, you can see he stayed stiff as he fell. When he hit the ground, his arm was up because that was the position that it was in as he fell. He wasn't defending himself. He was locked up, staring at the rafters.
I will, let me flip the heel hat around. I will defend Herb Dean in this. And the defense comes with. Do you have your caveats on nearby?
Absolutely.
Yeah. This defense comes with a. For those not watching with video, comes with a caveat. When Jai went down, Herb Dean was out of position.
Yes.
He did not see the eyes. He did not see how he fell. And so the caveat to the defense here is Herb Dean was not in position. When he got around to the correct position, he didn't know exactly how far gone Jai was.
Right.
And so when he circled around, he was looking, and at that point Jai was starting to move a little bit, and so it looked like he could, when he went back, he was sporting the antennas, but he was starting to move a little bit, and so at that point when he got around in position that the refs normally do when someone takes a fall like that, he gets down, he's looking to see what's going on. Jai was moving a little bit at that point. And so it looked like he could have been trying to defend himself. When he let him take a couple of extra shots, which after the first one, he should have stopped there.
Agreed.
So my caveat is that Herb Dean was out of position, which Herb Dean normally is never out of position.
Right.
He is one of the absolute best. So what happened, I don't particularly blame Herb Dean. The caveat is he was in bad position, and he shouldn't have let him take more than one more shot.
Right.
Because once he took that clean shot to
the first
grill,
one, if you watch the replay, that first one should have been more than enough. He hit him hard, but not too hard. When he hit him clean right in the jaw, and then stopped and looked right at Herb, and Herb didn't.
Yeah, and at that point, Herb should have stopped it. And at that point, I think Herb was probably still trying to assess the situation a little bit.
Right.
So, like I said, I'll defend Herb Dean to a point, but there is a caveat, and that was that he was out of position and didn't correctly assess the situation.
Right.
Herb Dean's been keeping people safe in the octagon for years. I don't think he's ever purposely let somebody get hurt. I don't think that's ever his intention.
No.
He's a good guy who's done really good things in the octagon. And one fight, although at this point you could say there was two fights that weekend where he was kind of out of position.
Yeah.
Even with two fights, you really can't say anything too bad about Herb Dean. I think Dan Hardy's blown it out of proportion a bit. I'm pretty sure Herb's ref some Dan Hardy fights and kept him safe and has been, the advocate for keeping people safe in the octagon for a really, really long time.
Right.
So I'll take Herb Dean's side on this one. I think Dan Hardy's blown it out of proportion. I think he's blown it out of proportion because he blew it out of proportion on the card when he stood up and started screaming at Herb Dean. You can stand up and be like, hey, you could take your headset off and be like, hey, dude, be in better position next time.
Right.
And Herb probably would have taken it, like, all right, yeah, that's fair. I was in bad position on that one. I got you, Dan. But when you're blowing it up and you're going back and forth with Herb, I mean, Herb's one of the best, and I don't see any reason for it.
Absolutely, but that's actually part of the reason why I wanted to bring it up here, because aside from just the fight itself, I've actually been kind of monitoring the bigger names who are talking about this, and there's two people in particular whose points I want to bring up to address the situation. The first one, the man who literally wrote the fucking rule set, Big John McCarthy, weighed in specifically on this issue in particular. And I absolutely agree 100% with the way that Big John worded it. In that moment, Herb Dean was in a no-win situation. Because if he stopped it immediately, Jai Herbert has the chance to say, well, I just got clipped, I hit the ground and could have came back to it, and you didn't give me a chance. On the other hand, if he lets it go long, like he clearly fucking did, now he's got the scrutiny of he's letting that fighter take shots he didn't need to take that you could potentially be shortening his career with, because at least two of those three shots did not need to be taken, regardless of how the fall happened.
Yeah.
So I understand both sides of both trying to give the fighter the opportunity, which they absolutely should, but also correctly and intently, quickly analyzing that situation for the importance that it carries to everyone involved. But the other side of it, and the other voice that I deferred to on this, Dan Hardy actually released an hour-and-a-half long video yesterday, and I sat and watched the whole fucking thing start to finish because I wanted to legitimately understand where he's coming from. This isn't an hour-and-a-half long video of him bitching. This is an hour-and-a-half of him using particularly cut clips of Herb Dean fights with this exact thing happening, going all the way back to Joe Lozon versus Takanori Gomi. When Takanori Gomi's final fight in the UFC, Joe Lozon flattened him out in full mount from the back, beat him literally unconscious while Herb Dean was standing over them watching him do it. Joe Lozon stops striking, stands up and walks away. Herb Dean leans down and grabs Nomi's shoulder, who rolls over and goes like this, and Herb Dean points at Joe Lozon and says he's over there. As Takanori goes to stand up, Lozon turns around to see what the fuck is happening, and it is not until Takanori Gomi stands up after Herb Dean had to show him where Joe Lozon went, that Herb waves the fight off. Then you add that this is 2 events like that just in this weekend alone, just this weekend. That's 2 other incidents like this. Dan had at least a dozen different incidents recorded directly from the UFC. I love Herb Dean, and Herb Dean is absolutely one of the best, but now we're getting to a point where this is legitimately starting to become a pattern where he's the new Mario Yamasaki. Like, he's going to let you take those fucking shots. Like, for those who don't know, for the more casual fans, basically the predecessor to Herb Dean, the guy who was the guy aside from Big John, earlier in the UFC was Mario Yamasaki. He pretty much always made clean calls. He would stop a fight when it needed to be stopped for the most part, but if it was ever a situation where there was a battle going on, you're going to take the extra shots until you slump. He's not going to call it when you start wobbling or when you're getting a little, like Ronda Rousey was up against the fence and not quite out, but that fight needed to be stopped. Mario Yamasaki would have let her take 4 more shots and get knocked the fuck out. Herb Dean is unfortunately starting to head down that path, and that he's a great referee, but when it comes to these crucial moments that we now know are so important to a fighter's career, to their life, more than just the match itself, the unnecessary damage is starting to rack up, and it's starting to make a point where Herb's looking a little lackadaisical in his stoppages in combat versus the submissions. There, he's generally right there. He's always on it. The second a finger moves, he's ready to call the tap. But when it comes to the actual striking like this, we're starting to see a little bit of a worrisome pattern from Herb. And I didn't think it was as much of an issue as it was until I watched Dan's video, where he literally provides you all of the examples. It's not just him saying it. He shows you the video. You watch every clip so he can make a point to show you where the fighter is out, where Herb is in position to the fight. He breaks every one of them down, and it doesn't look good for Herb. I love Herb Dean, but man, Dan's making a real fucking strong case, much more so than just yelling in the moment now. And I felt that deserved its moment here, because this is going to be an issue. This isn't the last we're going to hear about it. But
yeah, maybe he'll be better being in position and taking shots. Maybe he'll take the criticism.
That's what I'm hoping.
Herb seems like a dude that would totally do it.
Well, that's the thing, is that before Dan Hardy made that hour-and-a-half long video, Herb Dean made a 15-minute video Sunday morning from the airport in Abu Dhabi, sitting back at a juice bar, talking about how he's a professional. He knows what he's doing, and the only people who should be allowed to even say the words "stop the fight" in a UFC event are the commissioner and the ringside physician. He's trying to literally say that now commentators should be gagged or be muffled from the fight so that they can't have their voices heard, because Herb said he thought that it might have been the doctor telling him to stop that fight, and he says that that's part of what delayed the actual stoppage of the fight. It's one of those things.
I don't know about that, Herb.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's getting a little weird, and it needs to be talked about, because it's not going to go away. We're going to get more into this. Dana White said, and the UFC said, they're going to actually open an investigation into Herb Dean's refereeing practices. And the other thing about this is that Dan Hardy mentioned Herb Dean is an active MMA fighter. He has 5 professional MMA fights on his career and is actively waiting for his next one. Herb Dean's actively fighting, so he is actually should be, of anyone, more familiar with the importance of that stoppage in that moment, because he could be that guy catching those extra fucking Trinaldo slams when you don't need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
That's a dude you really don't want hanging out
absolutely, and that's part of the thing, is that of anyone to fucking smash you unnecessarily, do you really want Francisco Trinaldo unflinchingly and undefended to be able to just cram down on you? I fucking don't, and I'm bigger than he is. Oh man, I don't know. It's a whole weird situation, but it's gonna get weirder before it gets done. So moving along from there, I kind of got to giggle because it's at this point that's all you really can do about it. We found out Monday that this fight has been moved again. To be fair, this isn't getting the Khabib Tony treatment, cancel, rebook. This one just literally keeps getting pushed back. We found out Monday that instead of seeing this weekend, like had originally been pushed, or next weekend, like they had it balloted and already on the website, they have moved once again Frankie Edgar versus Pedro Munoz at 135. We will now see this fight, prospectively, fingers fucking crossed, on the August 22nd card, which has basically fallen apart from underneath itself. They're now looking to make that the main event to try and help cement both that fight and the card.
It's a good main event.
I agree. And with a card falling apart, that's a good fight to build around, too.
Yeah.
It sucks that we're moving it again. That we were supposed to.
That might be one. That might be one where the fight could have happened, and they're like, yo, we need that main event.
And that's what it was, because originally Pedro Munoz tested positive for Backstreet Boys, which just pushed the fight back. They didn't cancel it. That made us all happy. But then they have had 3 different times now where they have had the fight booked and decided that that card is already stacked enough and there's another card shortly behind it that needs something. And then literally this August 22nd card just fell the fuck completely apart. And Dana said not only will this help cement that fight from getting pushed back anymore, but it will give them the main event that they have lost on August 22nd and a great fight to build the card around. So knock on fucking wood, we get to see this on the 22nd, because now I'm into it. I didn't really give a fuck about Frankie at 135 initially, but at this point, you dangled that fucking carrot in front of my face long enough. I want to take a fucking bite, okay? Let's see it. Yeah. Let's fucking see it.
Let's see it.
Now, kind of on the opposite end of that, on a carrot that was literally never dangled in front of us, but is now, we got official confirmation, paperwork signed, date given, promotional posters created. September 12th, we will officially be watching the return of one Iron Mike Tyson stepping into the ring for a well, I guess it's not officially rebooked. They talked about it, but they never initially signed, for the much anticipated exhibition match, 8 rounds only, against Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah. Should have been 5. Should have been 5 rounds.
Roy did an interview yesterday that talked about this. Tyson originally wanted it to be 4. Tyson wanted a 4-round exhibition match. And Roy Jones, even looking at a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, went, fuck you. No one has ever watched Mike Tyson to see how he handles the 10th round. You watch the first 3.
Ow, cat.
If you can make it past the first 3 rounds with Mike Tyson, you're generally in real good shape. He's very much a Francis Ngannou of the boxing world. His power is terrifying early on, but it fades because that muscle uses a lot of energy and a lot of fucking oxygen and a lot of blood flow.
Yeah.
Roy Jones Jr. is well aware of this. Originally tried to talk Tyson into going a full 12, and Tyson said, fuck you, there's no way I'm going 12.
Yeah.
So,
have you seen my fights?
Yeah, they both understand each other's strong suits, and they managed to meet in the middle on an 8-round fight, because the way that Roy says, Tyson has the first 3, 4 is where he's going to fade indefinitely. He's not going to be able to come back past 4. I, on the other hand, am not a power puncher, but I'm a gas tank guy, and I'm a mover. So if I can just stay out of his reach and stay away from that fucking clobber that he's got for the first 3.5 rounds, by the time 4 gets here, I can implement my game plan, and then I have 4 rounds to do with him what I want to do. That's absolutely true, and that's the cleanest fucking accurate breakdown you can give of how that fight's going to go.
Yeah.
Roy has to survive the first 4, but if he does, Mike's in trouble. Mike's in real trouble.
It's going to be interesting to see like how far out that killer instinct for Mike Tyson comes back out. Like how far buried has he got it at this point? I don't think it's buried all that far.
I think it was pretty fucking shallow to begin with, and I think just the thought that people kind of fed into him when he even considered it, that, yo, we will pay millions of dollars and line up around the block to watch this still, I think that kind of helped unearth that ego a little bit, and now he's like, you know what? I'm still a fucking killer. Let's fucking go.
Interesting.
So yeah, some of the promotion, because they've released a couple of little like 20 and 30-second promotional clips showing them both training and shit. Roy Jones never stopped boxing. He literally had a match 3 months ago. He's still actively boxing, so he's still in active boxing shape, even for a 51-year-old. But Tyson, even as a 58-year-old man, is still so fucking huge and so strong, and he's not in bad shape. He said on Rogan's podcast he didn't pick up a jump rope for 20 years because he was scared to ignite this ego again. So he literally didn't even jump rope for 2 decades. Decides he's getting back into it, gets back in the gym with Rafael Cordero of all fucking people, and now Tyson looks like a 60-year-old shark. His fucking abs have abs again, man. This is gonna be real fucking interesting, I think.
That will be a ton of fun. Yeah, I think they're paying him. They're paying him a lot. They're paying both of them a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
Roy Jones for the potential that Mike Tyson loses his shit in there, and Mike Tyson just for the spectacle of Mike Tyson.
Yeah, just to see him let go. Just what have you got stored up for the last 20 some odd years? Because he's gonna uncork everything he's got at Roy. You know he's gonna, just to see if Roy can handle it. And if he touches him, it's.
And I could totally see Roy keeping the distance, and
he's gonna try and Mayweather this shit, and he has to. He really does. Because Tyson's
even
still
60-year-old. I mean, I've seen Mike Tyson training. Like he's lost. People say he hasn't lost a step. He's lost a step. Well, like, and people have forgotten exactly what Mike Tyson was. Yeah,
that's exactly right.
For a 58-year-old dude, like that dude would knock your fucking block off.
And that's exactly.
And it doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what Roy was saying in this interview yesterday. Is that the thing about boxers is that the power is the last thing to go.
Yeah.
Your legs are the first, but your power is the last. Tyson never had legs to begin with, so he has nothing to worry about. For him, this is just like he used to go do things. Punch dude hard, don't wait, don't take long. Punch again, punch harder. That's, this is Tyson, right back to Tyson who he used to be. Now, Roy's got to play smart, though. Roy's got to be a 50-year-old Floyd Mayweather against Mike fucking Tyson. So, I'm in it. I'm in for it, man. I think it's going to be great, and I think they're both going to get the money that they both need to not get back in there and do this anymore.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Hopefully.
Let me get another one of these. I'll be right back.
You're good. So, the next one I want to talk about real quick, like I said earlier, a lot of these coming back from Abu Dhabi cards, the coming back to the Apex, the re-Vegasing, if you will, of the USC's second half of summertime here, has been falling apart. I will give Dana this credit. He said early on, we cannot just do fights in the United States because we will burn out all of our local talent and then not be able to keep doing that. And he is 100% right. After 5 shows they did in Vegas before going to Abu Dhabi, that was a lot of the available current U.S. talent. So it's completely understandable, even though it does kind of suck that now that we're done with Fight Island and we're back to Vegas, that we're having trouble building these cards. Fights are falling the fuck apart, and they're having to be constantly rebuilt on the fly, much like we talked about Frankie and Pedro. We were supposed to have seen that twice already. That was originally the second time they moved. It's supposed to be this weekend, and we're not getting that. That's all be the end of the month now. So another one that's been bounced around and has now been changed up is a last-minute replacement for this weekend's card that we will give the full breakdown for tomorrow. Last-minute fight announcement, the debut in the UFC of one Nathan Maines, who comes in from LFA with great fucking highlights and a beautiful fucking prospect challenge. Stepping in, as we've said, the UFC doesn't generally give you debut easy fights, especially short notice easy fights. He is now going to make his debut this Saturday against the Taz Mexican Devil, Ray Borg.
Welcome.
Yeah. Welcome to the UFC. This guy's got a fucking chip on his shoulder and a fucking axe to grind. You're the one he's going to grind it against. Have fun.
Maine's actually has a really solid record coming in too.
Yes, he does. I believe he's 9-0.
Yeah.
And his highlight reel
He'll
looks
be
great.
9-0 after this weekend.
Yeah, his highlight reel looks great coming in, but you're coming in short notice against a fucking angry Ray Borg. I wish you all the luck in the world. May the odds be ever in your favor, sir. You're going to have to earn this one. Another announcement that we got yesterday afternoon that I was both intrigued and excited to see was a pair of announcements, actually, for the upcoming next BKFC 13, which will be taking place September 19th. We got the main and co-main event announcement. The co-main event will be Thiago Alves making his BKFC debut against Phil Baroni. Two very, very prominent former UFC fighters now stepping into the BKFC stage, taking the gloves off and getting the fuck at it. That's got crazy fucking potential. Thiago Alves, for all the things that he did, was always known to be most dangerous from his strikes.
Yeah.
Now he's got no gloves holding him back. This could get real fucking interesting.
Versus Phil Baroni, though.
Yeah, I'm like, Baroni's always been a crafty motherfucker, and he's another one of those from early on. Came from weird angles, through off-time fucking strikes. You didn't really ever know where he was going to come at you from, even if you were looking right at him. It's going to be neat to see those two with no fucking gloves going at it for 2-minute full contact fucking boxing rounds. But the co-main that's going to get, or the main event that they're going to be opening us up for is going to be equally as impressive. Hector Lombard is stepping into the BKFC circle against other former UFC fighter, Kendall Groves.
Wow, that's where Groves wound up?
Yeah! So we have got 4 former UFC, all predominant great fucking strikers, now going over to main and co-main event, the headline of the BKFC event coming up.
That's a hell of a way to come back, BKFC.
That's a hell of a fucking way to go, man. That's 2 very interesting fucking matchups that people always kind of wondered about. Guys you always knew had great striking, but the UFC gloves are not meant for boxing, really. And now you're completely taking the glove factor out of it, BKFC style. We could get really interesting.
It's going to be fun.
Okay, so back into the UFC side of the house here. A very, very interesting matchup, I must say. For the co-main event is what they're calling it right now, because obviously these cards are all still kind of being built. On the October 3rd card, looking a little further out now, Germaine de Randamie versus the return of Juliana Pena.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very, very interesting matchup. I think that could be very fun.
Yeah.
Both of those ladies have been around for a minute, and neither one of them are anything to be fucking taken lightly.
Nope.
I kind of like the matchup. I think it's going to be a fun one.
Like I said, Durandamie's one of the few who's really given. She didn't really give her trouble, but that championship fight, I mean, she gave, as much trouble as anybody's given.
Yeah, she took Amanda 5 and a deep hard 5 at that.
Yeah. So
that hadn't happened before, so it's,
no. Versus Pena, Pena's fun.
Yeah, she's crafty.
So yeah, great fight.
I think that's going to be fun as shit. Speaking of fun as shit fights, we got a neat one announced yesterday for the September 19th UFC card. Johnny Walker coming back into things against Ryan Spann. They have not taken him down the challenge level, but they are definitely starting to throw the wrestlers at him. That's for damn sure. I see this fight going very much like his last fight, because Spann is one of those that he wants to put you on your ass, but he's got strong fucking striking power, and we've seen Johnny get real confused when he gets wrestled. For a black belt in jiu-jitsu, he gets real confused when the MMA grappling starts coming into effect. That's how he got his ass kicked last time, and Spann is a very, very similar style matchup to the last time we saw him out. So this could be interesting to see if Johnny's actually learning and adapting in the UFC, or if he was just that one-trick pony that came in like a flash in the pan, and the flash is done.
Yep, exactly.
Because we're about to that point with him. Let's see. Here we go. Ah, yes. That brings me to the next one. A treat for fresh here. For the September 26th card, the little guy is coming in to make some fucking noise. The banger we just watched put on a beautiful performance. Brandon Royval made a hell of a fucking debut, getting right back in there. This time around against Kaya Kara France.
Ooh.
They are throwing him into some competition because Kaya Kara right now is kind of middle of the pack.
Yeah.
He's making his way in the breakout status.
He's been looking for an opportunity to make some noise, so yeah, that's going to be good.
That's going to be a fun fucking match. Both of those dudes are little firecrackers, man.
Yeah.
So the next one I've got here, again, they're rebuilding these cards in front of us with the quickness as they're falling apart. So next week's premier prelim is what they're calling it as of right now. Gavin Tucker, who actually was previously signed with the UFC, went 0-2, and in his second fight got injured and has been laid out for 2 years, recovering, now making his way back to the UFC after a full 26-month layoff, coming back in against another fucking finger-burningly hot fucking prospect in Justin James. Okay. We just saw that gentleman make his debut a couple weeks ago, showed up like a fucking stud, came in and put on a fucking wonder class. Now James stepping up to fight at 145. He made his debut at 35, taking this fight at 45 to welcome Tucker back. That is, I believe, a chance for Justin James to shine, much like we saw Khamzat Chimaev just shine. If you can fight in 2 different weight classes, and you can fight them fairly evenly, fairly quickly turn around, you're going to start getting special treatment from Uncle Dana. You see what fucking Khamzat's getting right now. Justin James is trying to do the same thing.
Show up at Dana's dinner.
Right? Be like, hey, I'm here till you get me a fight. I'll be on weight. Get me the fight. Well, Justin James
don't have to
back.
worry about me.
Yeah, Justin James is going to be back in less than a month turnaround and a weight class up this time from his. So we've seen that work out pretty well. I'm kind of excited to see how that one turns out. In regards to this weekend's card that was and then wasn't and now is again but is different, the original main event, Holly Holm versus Irene Aldana, much like we have seen several others here, they confirmed this week they are not going to scrap the match because Irene Aldana got the Backstreet Boys. They are just going to postpone it so that they keep all contracts in place. They just changed the date. They've got the fight cemented. They just move it to another time. They confirmed both the home camp and the Aldana camp have officially agreed as of yesterday the fight will not be scrapped so that either one can go find a new matchup. They are keeping that fight. They are just looking as to which one of the next 2 months worth of cards they can fit that back into.
Okay. I mean, at this point, anything with Holly Holm, I'm like...
Right? And yeah, realistically, at this point, I'm only really interested in that fight to see what Irene Aldana has. because we've seen everything Holly Holm has to offer at this point. But Irene is still new. She's working her way up the division. I want to see how she handles somebody like Holly, who's been there and may not have the best ability, but has the skill set and the challenge to throw at her and see where she stacks. In that fight getting moved, though, we actually got a pair of announcement of short notice fights that are getting added on. One of these, no, actually both of them, I apologize. Both of these were originally set to be on different cards and other fighters fell out, so they have both been made short notice fights and put onto this weekend's card. The first one, Trevor Giles originally had a match, but his opponent got the Backstreet Boys, so Kevin Holland is stepping in, another new prospect who we just saw make his debut a couple months back. Again, kind of a recurring theme here. Stepping in on short notice against Trevor fucking Giles, though. Trevor Giles isn't that old into the UFC, but he's another one of those that when we saw him make his debut, came in kind of hyped as a wrestler, and then had steel hands that just threw motherfuckers across the octagon when he hit him with it. So Kevin Holland is kind of the same, but not quite to the same degree. They're really similar styled guys, but short notice matchup against each other. Going to be interesting to see how they play out. The other one that was originally on next week's August 8th card fell apart and is now being moved here. Bobby Green versus Lando Venata, the rematch. Okay. Their first fight was pretty fucking phenomenal. It was one of those, oh shit, he got him, and it's over kind of fights. Yeah. And they're going to run it back short noticed against each other for this Saturday. So that's going to be one that we're going to be getting to talk about tomorrow as well. A lot of these short notice fights are pretty fucking good matchups, which we haven't really seen a whole lot of. There have been a lot of short notice fights in 2020 so far. Not all of them as nice as some of the ones we've been getting lately are, so I'm okay with it. On the Bellator side of the house, we got an announcement on Monday. They have 3 new events coming up that they have confirmed. The first of which is this coming Friday. They are going right back at it, trying to stay on the Friday before the UFCs for at least the next couple. Not this Friday, next Friday, I apologize. August 7th, in front of the August 8th event, will be headlined by Matt Mitrione, co-main headline by Matt Mitrione versus Tim Johnson. Tim Johnson and Matt Mitrione, both former UFC fighters. Mitrione, a little bit of an older school fighter. Tim Johnson was there fairly recently, but was one of the bigger guys that was having trouble really making an impact. Just couldn't really get his footing in the UFC. Doesn't seem to be doing too bad in Bellator yet, but in neither organization has really faced anyone to the caliber of a Matt Mitrione yet. So, with the exception of Mouthpiece Gate from his last fight against Karatanov, that clearly being a fluke, the first time he'd ever lost his mouthpiece, that new mouthpiece wouldn't stay in and Karatanov wouldn't give him a chance to fix it, understandably. I don't think we're going to see a Mouthpiece Gate incident happen again. And if we see just normal Mitrione, I think it's going to be a problem for Tim Johnson. But we'll find that out for sure next weekend. The main event on that card, Curtis Millender versus Sabah Hamasi. Sabah Hamasi was one who came through the Ultimate Fighter series on the UFC side, never could get his footing once he got his actual UFC contract, despite not winning the Ultimate Fighter. Never really looked bad, but just never really made the splash that you got to make to get capped, obviously. Millender, on the other side of that, being one of Bellator's homegrown, brought up through Bellator fighters. One of the first all Bellator, as we say, brought up in-house, not from another organization after he got cut, and has been nothing but a fucking stud ever since we fucking seen him come through. So that's going to be a great wind out to that card, regardless of what else they stack on it. Those 2 fights alone are going to be interesting as shit to see next Friday. One more announcement as for events go. Invicta is now officially back at it. They had been out on the sidelines waiting for everything to calm down and get their game plan going forward, just like UFC and Bellator and everyone else. Well, apparently they have got their game plan in place. They have announced they are officially coming back with Invicta 42 live from Kansas City September 17th to be headlined by two young ladies fighting for the now vacant atomweight little gal 105-pound ladies title.
I saw this, yeah.
That's going to be exciting. That is the little girls getting to headline the whole fucking show. And I believe it's a 9-fight card, so it's not one that's going to take 5 hours like the UFC. You can generally see the Invicta cards in an hour to an hour and a half, and they're pretty much all exciting fights. And when you start talking about getting down to atom weights, the little girls who have all gas tank, no knockout, just go, 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 those get really fucking exciting. So...
Yeah. Atom weight. That's going to be...
Damn.
They're just going to be swinging for the fences.
They're just going to be going ape shit, man. And they do. Those Invicta ladies fucking get it. One more fight announcement here to go over real quick. Despite the unfortunate passing of his father and Dana literally saying, I'm not going to talk to him, he can come to me when he's ready to get everything going again, we found out yesterday that it is official. As of October 24th, in a site to be determined, because we don't know where Backstreet Boys will be between now and then, but the date is set, October 24th, we will see the return of Khabib Nurmagomedov stepping in to face Justin Gaethje to unify the lightweight belt.
Yep. October. Yeah, that's a time for him to recover from Ramadan.
Basically, yeah, give him enough time to get back to normal, get back to training. And Ali, his manager, also came out this week when they confirmed that he signed for the October 24th fight, that Khabib is going to stick to what his father's original plan was, because his father was also his coach. His father's original plan, which to his credit, he said when they got him signed to the UFC, this was his plan. He wanted Khabib to go 30-0 and then retire. As of right now, he is 28-0 going into this Justin Gaethje fight. If he wins the fight against Gaethje, that makes him 29-0, and he has already said that he will have just that one last fight, and he will retire. And that if he only has one more fight left, the only fight that he wants is George St. Pierre. Dana, to his credit, immediately said, Khabib has done enough for us. If that's who he wants for his last fight, then we will give George St. Pierre that option. Possibly one of the only times Dana has actually ever said something like that. Ironic he didn't say it to, I don't know, Anderson fucking Silva or Shogun or Nogueira or anybody like, the bigger names, but he said it to Khabib, so we'll give him credit for that. The other part of that story that isn't getting as much coverage because everybody just wants to talk about the fact that Khabib wants GSP for his last fight is that George St. Pierre said on Monday, I've heard this, I am honored. No, I am retired. I have no desire to compete anymore. I have no desire to put my body through what I would have to put it through to do a full camp, not only to be prepared for a fight at championship level, but for a fight at 155 pounds where I have never competed.
Doesn't surprise me.
I understand it. I get what Khabib is trying to do, but GSP has been saying for years, I'm done, guys. I know more than most of you exactly what it takes mentally and physically to be ready for a championship fight, and at 40, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm done. I hung them up. So, the interesting thing about that is that Dana kind of insinuated that if that's how those cards should fall, then the only other fight to make would be Conor versus Khabib too. Realistically, Dana told everyone very publicly that if Conor beat Cowboy, he was next in line for the belt or to get the Khabib rematch if Khabib didn't have the belt when that fight opened up. as kind of aggravating as it is a little bit, this is actually Dana being true to what he said he was going to do for a change, which is why it makes it so weird. Because normally Dana's clearly full of shit, but this is one of those rare times where he said a thing and he's actually holding himself to that thing, and it might actually turn out to be okay if it works out this way.
It might. Yeah, it might just work out.
Granted, there's still a small problem of Justin fucking Gaethje not wanting to be ignored.
Yeah.
But that being said, if
we all know Justin Gaethje, he's too dumb to quit.
yeah,
so.
it's not going to be an easy thing, and it's not going to be something where Justin will sit back and let Khabib and Conor have their match because Khabib's going to retire. No, that's going to be a big obstacle for Khabib to get past. But if he can do it, it makes everything that much more interesting. So, with that being said, I just have one more thing that I wanted to cover here real quick.
Okay.
I don't even know how to broach this one. It's an odd thing the way that this is unfolded. But I feel that it's also very important that it has unfolded and that it gets talked about. Because of what it has largely been swept under the journalistic rug as far as the MMA world goes. And I think that's kind of a fucked up deal because this is very important in the grand scheme of things, even if it's not so detrimental immediately. It was announced yesterday that despite having retired officially in 2009, unofficially, or excuse me, in 2019, unofficially at the end of 2018, Gilbert Melendez, as of Monday, has been issued a 2-year USADA suspension for an anti-doping violation.
Okay.
One of his in-competition samples from before he officially, quote-unquote, retired, popped hot for metabolites. The B test was run, popped hot for metabolites. He ran arbitration for it, because that is the first option with USADA. The arbitration officially failed last week. They lost the arbitration last week. Basically, he had delayed a year and a half of this suspension while he was retired by using the arbitration. So his record officially goes retired as clean because he retired. But now that he is retired, this puts it in a weird position because he cannot compete for 2 years after having retired a year ago.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little, I kind of think that's a little bit why it's getting swept under and not getting talked about as much. But the fact of the matter is they caught Gilbert Melendez doping. He retired before he had to face the consequences, but they caught him doping and weren't even going to let him off the hook retired. He has an active 2-year suspension right now. That's kind of important because as respected as Gilbert Melendez is, for the most part justifiably so, this verifies that he, like everyone else, is fucking human. And for as much shade as he and everyone else threw at TJ Dillashaw when we found out that he was EPO'd out to try and take down Henry at 125, this turns out to have been the pot calling the kettle black because he was actively doping himself when he was talking shit about TJ doping.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean...
That's kind of shitty, man. Like, not to justify doping by any sense of the imagination. It's never a good thing, and it's never something we should make light of. But if you're robbing a bank, you don't get to talk shit to a guy robbing a jewelry store because he's using a pistol and not an assault rifle.
True enough.
And that's kind of what this turned out to be in the long run. We didn't know it at the time, obviously, but that's kind of what this has turned out to be. And that's a little fucked up, and I think it needs mentioning because Gilbert kind of has this pedestal status where, he's a commentator for the Combates America. He does Latin UFC, he does all sorts of things for the UFC behind the scenes, and everybody's always good guy Gil this, good guy Gil that. Well, good guy Gil also did some fucking doping and cheated while he was in the UFC. He didn't get caught while he was doing it, but he fucking cheated and then made fun of other people cheating while he was cheating. I'll let it go with that, but it has to be mentioned. Irony like that can't just be ignored.
True enough.
So, do you have anything that we didn't cover here that you would like to mention, sir?
I was going to mention the atom weight ladies, but you found that article as well.
Yeah.
I was trying to be crafty. I was trying to find an article that Meter hadn't found.
I always encourage that.
Yeah, but yeah, no. You covered everything that had crossed my desk this week.
Right on.
Granted, it's glances between studying, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you of all people have the excuse to not have to have devoted the entire week to research.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, we will go ahead and wrap it up and get on out of here. So, if folks would like to get a hold of you after the show is over and find out a little more about Fresh 03 and your take on the little fella fights, how could they get a hold of you, sir?
YouTube.com/Fresh03. We are still checking the pit traps to see if we've captured our elusive uncle Chael, but no luck so far. He is proving to be crafty prey. So we will continue. We'll continue. Yeah, you know, we really think we're getting closer because we did find a swath of cheetah print at one point out in the woods, caught up in the Everglades.
Craig Traces. That's Craig Trace.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We think that's a reliable sign that we're getting close.
I'd say it's about as close of a sign as we've gotten so far. So I'm in it. I'm in for it. All right. Thank you very much for your time, sir. So for those of you who watched this live with us, I appreciate you. For those of you who are catching this on a replay, I appreciate you. For more things, I'm No Joe. We are on basically all social media platforms. We are on Facebook at I'm No Joe. We're on Instagram at I'm No Joe. Obviously, we are at YouTube at I'm No Joe. If the Instagram influencer level faces are too much of a distraction for you, the I'm No Joe podcast itself is available in all audio format on your podcast platform of choice through anchor.fm/I'm No Joe. And if you'd like to support what we do around here, patreon.com/I'm No Joe. But that's all we've got for this evening. So if we entertained you this evening, if we give you a little something to giggle about, give us a thumbs up. If we brought some good fights that you're excited to see now, maybe subscribe. We do this and more every week. If we gave you an aha, just an epiphany of combat sports, share an episode. We're trying to grow this damn thing. On the other side of that coin, if we're just a couple dumbasses sitting in front of a webcam talking out our ass, give us a thumbs down. We earned it, and we won't dispute it. But that being said, we are going to call it all for now. So until next time, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything. Unless you think that Epstein killed himself. At this point, just Lane Maxwell it, okay? I'm not sure why you're doing this.
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
I'm getting the outro song first as well, folks.
Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times that made us laugh outweigh the bad. I thought we'd get to see forever, but forever's gone away.
I'll get that audio fixed yet, folks. Stick with us. Have a good night.